Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tequilacation, where we do a deep dive into all things tequila while we imbibe a little bit of the sweet juice itself. I'm Stephanie Acker, and today I'm joined by Chris Quintanilla, who is the CEO of Azulejos Tequila. And we're going to jump right in to talk a little bit about today what is tequila and what's the history around it. So, Chris, I know that's a big topic, but you live in the world of tequila. So tell me a little bit about what is tequila? What's the history around it? Because I know it's got a lot of background around it and a lot of things that are really interesting that people don't know.
Yeah, no, tequila is a very broad subject. My family's been in the business for almost 30 years, so kind of lived it. It's in my passion, it's in my blood. So, yeah, happy to share. So, history of tequila. Well, I think you need to go back to the history of distilling in general. Distilling has been around since the Romans and the Egyptians used to make different medicines and perfumes with a still. Then eventually they started distilling different types of alcohol from different fermented products, and yeah, so that's kind of how spirits got started. Now, what's interesting on how tequila got started is when the Spaniards, the conquistadors, came to Mexico. They brought their brandy with them, and once they were in Mexico, eventually they run out of brandy, so they were looking for what else can they possibly distill to get their liquor, right? so
Priorities, priorities.
so back then, the Aztecs and the indigenous people used to make like a beer called pulque, which was basically a naturally fermented from the agave sap from different types of magueys. So very simple. They thought, hey, let's distill this, see what happens, and that was the beginning of mezcal. So mezcal is a little different from tequila. Mezcal can be made from any type of agave. When tequila needs to be made specifically from the blue agave. So
Okay.
they would distill this pulque, and the different, as it over the centuries, different towns would make their own different style of mezcal. So whatever the predominant agave was in the area, they would make their mezcal. So you had the mezcal from this town, you had the mezcal from this town, and you had the mezcal from Tequila. And the primary agave around the town of Tequila in Mexico, in the state of Jalisco, is the blue agave. So then over
Okay.
time, the town of Tequila became kind of famous for higher quality mezcal. So everybody's like, well, I like mezcal, but I like the mezcal from Tequila. Or have you tried the mezcal from Tequila, the town of Tequila? So eventually the mezcal was dropped, and the specific method and the agave used became tequila.
And that's
So
the blue Weber agave, is that right?
yes, so
Okay.
part of the legal definition, the denomination of origin of tequila that was passed in 1974, tequila has to be made from blue Weber agave called agave tequilana, and this designation makes it that's the only type of agave used. There's dozens and dozens of different agaves, and then any other spirit made from agave is mostly called mezcal, from agave salmiana, agave espadin, agave tobala. All that are different types of mezcal, but tequila is going to be made from blue agave, and it's going
Okay.
to be made in the tequila region, which has an official designation, which is Jalisco and four surrounding states that have the ability. And all tequila globally has to be produced. The agave has to be made in that region, and the agave has to be distilled in that region.
Okay. Okay. So sort of like champagne, right? I mean, you can call it also for other things, prosecco, etc. But if you're gonna have champagne, it has to be made in France.
That's right. Actually, it's not just spirits or wine, different types of food. But yes, in the spirits, you have cognac only can be made there, Scotch in Scotland. But even like Manchego cheese needs to be made in Spain, or Parmigiano Reggiano needs to be made in a specific part of Italy, right? So
Right.
all that designation of origin is kind of a global agreement that gives the true authentication. And there's a regulatory body. In the case of tequila, there's a Tequila Regulatory Council that's been around for over 100 years that oversees oversight for all the tequila production. And actually, they have
Wow.
agave planted, cataloged, and you can really dig into every single batch, and they really keep a great oversight and quality so that the name of tequila remains a premium name.
So, Chris, I have to say, you sound like a real foodie and
Yes.
drinky, right? So, tell us a little bit about your background. I understand. So, you used to work for a large distributor, right?
Right. Yes, I've been
You're
in the
moving it.
industry.
This is your family's business.
That's correct. Yes. So I've been in the industry over 20 years on the distribution side, on the importation side, and on the production side. So I really have been able to see a big part of the industry and how it really works at every level, down from the people, the growers of the agave, all the way through the distillation, the importation, distribution, and through the retailers. So it's an amazing industry, and there's several different tiers that a product goes through to really get to the end consumer. So
Okay.
it's very amazing. I've been fortunate to be part of most of those tiers.
And now your business, now Azulejos has been in business for
I
19
was
years?
It was started in the early '90s, so just about 30 years. So
Okay,
it's
30 years. Okay.
actually it's right before really tequila, premium tequila was a big thing. Kind of right around the same time Patron started growing, and there really weren't that many cool looking bottles or really people marketing tequila as a high end product. And maybe leads me a little bit into how tequila became popular in the United States, right? And a good story is, well, a true story is really during Prohibition. They banned the production of alcohol in the United States, and people in California and the southern states were looking to find some sources of alcohol, and they found
Imagine
that
living in that time. Like that would just not be fun.
that's right. Yeah. So in the 20s and 30s, it was pretty easy and cheap to import tequila, through Tijuana across the border, and became very popular with the Californians, Texans, Arizona, all that. And actually, a lot of these tequila companies were marketing it as Mexican whiskey, but it said tequila on the bottle and Mexican whiskey. There's some cool labels. We want to look that up, but uh, but the Mexican whiskey was the first taste really of tequila across the border. Then, kind of in the 1950s, 40s, 50s, after the World War II, Tijuana became a very popular spot. That's where the margarita was invented in Tijuana, and people started vacationing in Mexico, baby boomers and all that, and
Thank you for that.
people started getting the taste for tequila. But still, in the 80s and 90s, tequila was really a party drink. People were taking shots and with a lime and salt and licking the salt, and they made the face. And actually, to this day, people have maybe some bad memories of their first tequila. But in the 90s, kind of when my father started the company in the early 2000s, there was a lot of the industry got together and say, let's make tequila, let's market this not as a cheap, high volume drink. We want to really show the world what premium fine tequila really is. Because in Mexico, you always had sipping tequilas and great tequilas, but it was never shared with the world. So actually, Patron did a great marketing effort in getting the name out there of really high quality, 100%
Mhm.
agave tequilas, and educating the people that it's not just something you shoot. It's a great sipping product. It's great for cocktails, and it's one of the most refined spirits in the world. So that being said, tequila has grown. It's it's probably the fastest growing category year over year in the United States, and it's a great product. It brings a lot of business to Mexico, helps a lot of people along the way, the growers, the distillers, a lot of passion in that industry. And growing up in Mexico, it means a lot to that. This is our national pride, and there's a lot more growth in the foreseeable future as people really understand what refined luxury premium tequila really is.
So tell me a little bit about, I'm really fascinated by how there are just the different types of tequila. And I know we'll do another session where you're going to share with us, which I'm really excited about, like how to really drink tequila, like how to really understand it and the tasting notes and the different types. And that's going to be really fascinating. I think a lot of people will find that really interesting, but just kind of high level. I know that there's different types of tequila. And that's based off how it's produced, if I understand that correctly. So
Yes.
can you just share a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So the three most popular types are the blanco, reposado, and añejo. And I'll kind of go a little more in depth. There's a couple other categories. You have the the extra añejo, which is going to be age the longest, and I'll get into that, and the cristalino. And then before all that, you want to start with tequila versus 100% agave tequila. So there's a very big difference.
Okay.
Um, the tequila, to be called tequila, it needs to be at least 51% agave. So by the regulations, at least half of it has to be tequila. And then you can add other spirits to tequila to kind of make it more inexpensive. Tequila agave is very expensive, very hard to make. It takes the plants over 7 to 10 years to grow an agave. Um,
Oh, wow. I
so
didn't realize it was that long.
yeah, so most other spirits, right? It's a growing season. So if you have rum, sugarcane grows very fast. Grape is one growing season. Whiskey is made from grains and corn, which is one growing season. So 6, 12 months, whatever it is. But a tequila is 7 to 10 years out. So if you're a poor farmer and you have to plant this field and not be able to harvest it till 2030, 2032, so you have to plan that out, which leads to a lot of shortages. As tequila grows faster than the planting, it can lead to a lot of shortages and problems. And then there's been a problem in the past where people overplant, and then the agave is too much, and then they have to cut the fields and plant corn instead. So
Ah, okay. Okay.
it's a very difficult, intricate process, right? So going back to the point is, you have your tequila, which is 51.49%. It says tequila on the label. But what really makes a fine tequila, it has to be 100% agave. So your inexpensive tequila, your mixers, what you see in a bar leader, a lot of times it's going to be a 51% just regular tequila. Now,
Okay.
if it says 100% agave in the label, now you know you're going to get a very high quality regulated product that has to be actually distilled and bottled at the distillery in Mexico and be imported, fully regulated and with a serial number. And so you're going to get a very high quality product. So when you're drinking tequila, you want a nice product. You always want to see this as 100% agave
Okay.
on the bottle, and by law has to say that if that's what it is. People sometimes say, well, for mixing, I can use just a regular tequila that doesn't say 100% agave. You can, but you still can find some pretty decent price 100% agave tequilas, and I would recommend highly to, even for any cocktails or mixing, to find something that says 100% agave, because you're getting a high quality product that's pure, not mixed with other spirits.
And I could say, as a tequila drinker, I'm a huge tequila fan. There is a very big, and I do like a mixed drink. I
Mhm.
love a margarita or a sunrise or a Bloody Maria. That's one of my favorites. There is a real difference with what you mix in there,
Yes.
right? Like, I mean, unless you just don't care at all, and you're at a frat party and you want to hang out and whatever, and obviously you don't want to, you don't want to spend more than maybe $19 on your bottle. Like, I get that, but it makes such a difference in the overall drink and the experience, and also how you feel. Like,
Yes.
when I drink good tequila, I
Mhm.
never have hangovers. Now, let me caveat that. Obviously, if I imbibe a little bit too much on anything, I'm in my 40s now, I'm going to have a harder time.
Yeah,
But
same here.
but in general, it's one of the liquors. I'm also a bourbon fan.
Mhm.
It's one of the liquors that I can drink it and feel good the next day. And I think part of that's because it doesn't have the added sugars and all that as well.
That's right. Yes. So, from back in the day when you're taking a shot with a lime and salt, that's going to be a mixed tequila mixed with something else, and it's going to be a low quality alcohol. You're probably going to get a headache. So definitely spend the extra $5 and get 100% agave versus something that might not be. And actually, there's a lot of cheater brands. Some brands say they're tequila liqueur, or just say made with tequila spirits. So you do want to look for that 100% agave label, and you're going
Okay.
to get a good quality product.
Okay. So sorry, going back to the different types of tequila, I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have your blanco. I have a little. I poured myself a little bit
Oh,
here.
look at that. I like how you drink it. Now you're drinking that in a flute glass, right?
Yes. So
Fluted glass.
on the glassware, you do want to something that's kind of tulip shaped, like a little champagne um, flute is probably the best. So you can get the right aromas and appreciate it. But
Okay.
just a blanco is going to be unaged. Sometimes they might age it for a few days, but blanco is going to be unaged and completely clear.
Okay.
The next, and I'm talking about 100% agaves because that's really where you're going to get the aged products. On the mixtos, it's going to be either silver clear or it's going to be gold, which has some coloring, caramel color to it. But 100% agave is going to be a natural product. So next you get the reposado. This is going to
My
be
favorite.
aged.
That's what I'm
Yes.
drinking today as well.
So this is going to be aged about usually around 6 months. The minimum is 2. The maximum is 364 days. So on a blanco, you're going to get definitely a lot more of the full agave flavor. It's going to be intense. It's going to be, and if you like that, you really get the great herbal notes, pepper, great flavors. With a reposado, it's going to be the same product, but it's going to be aged a few months. And it's going to smooth out the edges, but you're still going to get quite a bit of the agave flavor. You get a little bit of the oaky and vanilla flavors from the barrel, but it's still good agave. And actually, the most popular tequila in Mexico is going to be a reposado because you do get that agave. Now, the
I think
añejo,
reposados to be the best for mixed drinks.
yes, yeah. I mean,
With that, it's mellow, but
mhm.
I still have that tequila in there, but it's nice and mellow. It's that just for me, my personal flavor, like preference.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's funny because a third of people like Blanco, a third Reposado, and a third Añejo. And I do all
Everybody's got
kinds of
their
events
thing.
and tastings, and it really is divided pretty evenly. It's funny. But you can experiment with both, and that's a great thing about tequila. Try the same cocktail with a Blanco and a Reposado.
Hmm.
They'll taste very, very different. It's amazing how that few months in aging pick up so many differences. But yeah, it's going to be a little more smoother on the edges, I like to say, on a Reposado.
Okay.
And then you get an añejo that's going to be aged at least 1 year. So you're going to get a lot more of the barrel. You're going to get a little less agave, but you're going to get a lot more of the caramel and oak and vanilla and all the flavors that you would see in a barrel. So if you like bourbon, if you like Scotch, you're going to like the añejos. And in Mexico, you consume an añejo kind of as an after dinner drink, like you would with a cognac or
Hmm.
something
That's like if
similar.
I'm going to sip a drink, then I'm going to do an anejo.
Yeah, so añejo,
Yeah.
you pretty much always want to sip it. Yes,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
love sitting on the porch at night in the summertime, a little anejo.
Mhm,
It's just slightly chilled, just a tiny bit, like refrigerator level,
mhm.
chilled, and just,
Yes.
that
So
just doesn't get much better.
then you have the extra añejo, which is tequilas aged more than 3 years.
Okay.
It's a smaller category. You have some great extra añejos, but you're going to get much more of the barrel than you're not going to get much agave at that point. So añejo, you still have the tequila flavor, the extra añejo. There's some really incredible complex extra añejos, but now you're tasting more of the barrel than the actual agave. So,
Okay.
and then there's the cristalino category, which is aged tequila, where they run it through a filter and take out the color. So it's a clear looking. You get the flavors and aromas of an añejo or añejo or whatever your base is. So that's kind of a newer category, but and it's more about the color. It's going to be clear, but with the añejo flavors.
I got you. Okay.
But
Okay.
the blanco or añejo are the main three in this. 98% of what's consumed is going to be blanco or añejo, whether it's
Okay.
crystalline or not.
So I know we're about 16, 17 minutes, and we want to
Okay.
try to keep it a little bit under 20 minutes. Now I know you're going to be coming back, and we're going to be doing another one. We talked about the tasting and how to
Absolutely.
drink tequila. I'm so excited for that. I'm going to learn a ton. That's going to be amazing. And we invite everybody, that's going to be watching with us, to obviously come along with their tequilas so that they can
Mhm.
taste it. And then we also want to do one. I'm really fascinated by how tequila is produced. I
Yes.
think, understanding it's a lot more complex than I understood. Like
Extremely.
even the length of agave and where you have to do it and like the different types of barrels. And then of course I'd love to learn more about the Azulejos story because you guys do something really unique in that in addition to the fact that your tequila is amazing, you can see
Hmm.
I have Azulejos behind
Oh
me.
yeah,
Your tequila, you obviously you do as well. I mean, your tequila is legitimately it's my favorite reposado of all of my tequilas, and
great.
I'm very
Mine too.
particular about my tequila. I just absolutely love it. I give it as gifts, etc. But it's in handmade bottles, and they're truly handcrafted. But I know local artisans in Mexico. You guys support the local community, which I think is a big deal, and we'd love to learn more about that. So before we wrap up today, is there anything that we've kind of like? If people had to walk away with one thought or one important thing about what is tequila, that they can kind of teach someone else or, kind of think in their head, what would that be, Chris?
Well, look, I think tequila is being one of the most refined spirits in the world. It does take one of the longest in terms of the whole process. If you talk about since harvesting, since growing it all the way harvesting and all the different processes it goes through all the way to aging. It's definitely not something you just shoot. You really want to get something that's 100% agave and enjoy it. And it might take you 10-15 minutes to sip a nice tequila, but it's definitely not something you just take shots of. It's not just a party drink. It really is a refined spirit. And if you can really learn to appreciate tequila, there's so many. It's almost like wine, a Cabernet. From different regions, different types, different processes. It's a world of difference. So when you experiment with the different tequilas, different types, the world of tequila is really amazing, and it's always something new. And everyone who maybe had a bad tequila experience, if you really teach them the right way to enjoy tequila, consume it, they really can see and be converts into understanding how great tequila is actually probably the best spirit in the world. Definitely in my book, but
We're a little biased, right? I mean, this is a show called Tequilacation. So,
that's right.
all right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. I really look forward to our next episodes. I think it's going to be fantastic. So, those of you watching, take a sip, enjoy your delicious tequila, and we will see you soon. I'm Stephanie
Salud.
Acker. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Salud.